Ever wondered how to reignite a girl's interest if you feel she's pulling away? In this video, I'm here to unveil the strategies that can turn the tide and have her chasing you again. The common concern we often receive is about reigniting attraction when a girl's interest wanes. Picture this. We were recently dining with friends when one buddy discussed his experience dating a girl. Everything seemed fantastic, and his enthusiasm was high, but he began sensing a loss of control. It's as if the dynamics were shifting, and she held the upper hand, a situation that rarely leads to positive outcomes. He sought advice on regaining control, even though they were still in touch. She hadn't called it quits entirely, but the attraction was fading, prompting him to seek ways to rekindle the spark. We shared 3 impactful tips, empowering him to regain his position of influence. These insights proved effective, and now I'm excited to share these very tips with you in this video. The initial strategy revolves around managing your time and attention deliberately. Our friend, who faced a similar dilemma, highlighted the issue of his more flexible schedule compared to the girl he was dating. We've all encountered situations where the balance of power leans toward one person dictating when to meet. Whether it's accommodating her preferences on a Tuesday night or rearranging plans, it's an all-too-familiar scenario. This act of bending schedules demonstrated by our friend displayed what we refer to as time power. In relationships, the one with higher status tends to undervalue the other's time, while the person with lower status seems to have ample time available. Unfortunately, this dynamic can lead to being taken for granted, a phenomenon that occurs frequently. Just like in other aspects of life, the more abundant a resource is, the less valuable it appears to the other party. To shift this dynamic, introducing an element of scarcity to your time becomes essential. In situations where the woman becomes the sole focus, controlling interactions, the power balance inevitably tips. Her time gains value in the process, while the guy's time diminishes. This often leads to the fear of being unavailable. An example is when one hesitates to decline plans for fear of not seeing her for a prolonged period, triggering the concern that she might explore other options. Consequently, altering his plans becomes a common occurrence. To counteract this trend, the individual begins to perceive his flexibility as a given, adapting to her schedule. However, this gradually conditions her to believe she can dictate terms. The shift in perspective occurs as she recognizes she doesn't need to be as accommodating. In effect, she influences his actions, believing he'll adjust plans to align with her desires. Now, here's the catch. When a girl's schedule is packed, we often find ourselves hesitating to decline an opportunity to spend time with her. It's a natural response rooted in human nature. If you're currently navigating this scenario, there's no blame to be assigned. So, the question is, how can we effectively manage our time while maintaining her interest? One approach involves applying the concept of scarcity to your time, and a practical way to do this is by implementing time constraints. Now, some might be tempted to engage in strategic games, such as purposely delaying responses to texts or calls. While this may seem effective, there's a more refined and potent strategy at play here. Consider this. You wait until a specific moment, perhaps right before bedtime. If she sent a text earlier in the day, right before you retire for the night, you send a message stating, "Noticed your call. I'll reach out to you tomorrow," thereby establishing the timing on your terms. To heighten the impact, let her anticipate your return call later in the day. This maneuver triggers her thought process, causing her to ponder, "Why did he text before bedtime but didn't call? Could he be with someone else?" This mental whirlwind mirrors the one you're experiencing, and it's a well-established truth that the more she occupies her mind with thoughts of you, the deeper her affection grows. This approach possesses a higher level of effectiveness compared to merely postponing your response until the next day. Moving on to tip number 2, we delve into a strategy that's both subtle and remarkably potent, requesting a favor from the girl. Yes, it might seem counterintuitive, but there's a psychological foundation behind it. We often discuss the pitfalls of nice guys employing favors, believing that acting as a white knight will win her over. The reality is quite different. Doing excessive favors tends to have the opposite effect. it somewhat diminishes your allure. However, what many fail to recognize is that the inverse is true. When she does you a favor, it piques her interest, drawing her in. This phenomenon is rooted in the principle of effort justification. As a rule, the more effort we invest in something, the more deeply we become attached. This is why it becomes challenging for us to detach from someone we've invested considerable effort into. Interestingly, we've observed that in certain cases, when a woman invests less effort, it compels a man to reciprocate with heightened effort. It's as though she offers a small gesture, prompting him to respond with a grand one. In this context, however, we propose a reversal. When you prompt her to do you a favor, you're essentially flipping the script. Ordinarily, the scenario involves men carrying out favors for women, driving them to the airport, assisting with furniture, offering advice. Here, the dynamic shifts when you ask her for a favor instead. It could be something as simple as, "Could you give me a lift somewhere?" Or, "Would you mind walking my dog on Tuesday while I'm at work?" This unconventional approach is underpinned by several reasons. First and foremost, it conveys a sense of dominance. You're demonstrating the willingness to take initiative and assign her a task. This stands in stark contrast to a needy nice guy who, especially when a girl is distancing herself, would be far too hesitant to take such a step. Furthermore, as she goes about fulfilling the favor, a heightened sense of investment in you begins to form within her. She rationalizes her actions, interpreting her willingness to assist as a sign of genuine interest in you. This process transpires within her mind, leading her to conclude that she wouldn't bother if she didn't genuinely like you. This subtle psychological mechanism contributes to the success of this strategy. Furthermore, another driving force behind this strategy is the universally experienced sense of fulfillment that accompanies helping others. It's why many individuals inclined towards nice guy behavior find satisfaction in their actions. It boosts their self-esteem. By requesting a favor from her, you present her with the opportunity to care for you, a role that resonates particularly well with females. Keep in mind that the favor needn't be grandiose or monumental. It's not about seeking a colossal gesture. Instead, aim for a task that necessitates her to invest some time and energy from her day, redirecting it back into your connection. Now, transitioning to tip number 3, we explore the concept of strategically retracting your level of interest. However, a word of caution: striking the right balance is pivotal. Overdoing this strategy by coming across as excessively aloof can potentially extinguish the chemistry between you two. Yet, when approached in measured doses, it can yield remarkable results. In its essence, you're employing a mirroring tactic, gently reflecting her behavior. Superficially, you portray an air of normalcy, mirroring her demeanor. Importantly, this doesn't involve confrontation, breakup discussions, or displaying visible signs of distress or neediness in response to her pulling away. Instead, you consciously dial back a fraction of your involvement, reminiscent of her own actions. Vital to the success of this approach is the need for it not to appear as a direct response to her behavior. It's imperative that she doesn't perceive any signs of upset or disappointment from your end. Otherwise, the strategy will fall flat. Instead, the impression you want to convey is that you're genuinely experiencing a subtle decrease in interest toward her. A crucial principle we consistently emphasize to our clients is to avoid rewarding negative behavior. Unfortunately, this is a trap most men fall into when faced with a girl's sudden disinterest. They counter it by intensifying their efforts, believing it will compel her to remain. Paradoxically, this act rewards her undesirable behavior, leading to a loss of respect for you. A more effective route involves enacting slight changes that gently convey a reduction in the captivating allure she holds. Understanding the fundamental human aversion to loss is pivotal here. When someone feels special and holds significance, any indication of their charm fading triggers an instinctual urge to regain that lost allure. This is where the subtle shift in your attitude comes into play. By appearing slightly less enchanted by her presence and showing a touch less enthusiasm when she reaches out, you ignite this mechanism. It's a recognition that women experience attraction most intensely when they're striving to impress. Practical strategies involve making nuanced shifts, often under the radar. For instance, if you're typically a sounding board for her problems and provide solutions when she's feeling down, consider altering your approach. Steer conversations in different directions rather than indulging in problem-solving sessions. Another approach is to introduce some healthy disagreement into your interactions. When she makes a point, offer a different perspective that's noticeable, yet not confrontational. The overarching aim is to subtly highlight that her hold over you is slowly waning. Importantly, avoid explanations that justify your behavior. If she probes, wondering if something is amiss, refrain from revealing that your demeanor is a response to her actions. Instead, deflect inquiries with nonchalant responses like, "Everything's fine." Creating an air of mystery in your demeanor, perhaps seeming slightly preoccupied, leaves her intrigued. She might wonder about potential external interests, or whether she's beginning to lose your attention. This air of uncertainty draws her back in, reigniting her interest. Numero US individuals often desire grand gestures as a means to regain affection. Personally, I find myself drawn towards the idea of sending flowers, among other things. However, this mindset often leads to the common errors that I discuss in my video titled 5 Mistakes Men Make When a Girl Pulls Away. If you haven't seen it yet, I've provided a link for your convenience. It's important to note that a single elaborate gesture doesn't necessarily restore the balance of power or regain the upper hand. The most effective methods involve subtle actions that you gradually implement. Many of these actions operate beneath the surface, intentionally escaping her notice. Moreover, you needn't wait until you've lost the upper hand to employ these strategies. When embarking on a new relationship, it's wise to immediately integrate these techniques, even from the first date. For instance, if she shares something she came across online, encourage her to send you the link. By doing so, you engage her in a way that prompts her to invest in you. Additionally, when arranging a date, consider utilizing time constraints to dictate the timing. These strategies can be employed right from the outset.